You said you wanted to speak on having multiple sexual partners before marriage as opposed to being a virgin. What did you mean by that? What did you want to speak on specifically on that?
Oh gosh. Well, there's so many ways that I can go. There's two ways that I can go with this. I think that, to your point, I wouldn't. How did you phrase it? You wouldn't.
You wouldn't
purchase a car without test driving it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me at least, I feel like my sexual compatibility, my sexual chemistry is very quintessential to having a really strong relationship. And you don't know, you could have the most amazing, loving connection with somebody, but you cannot predict how you will engage with them sexually until you have crossed that line. And I've dated a number of people who I thought I have this amazing relationship with them, I have this amazing connection with them, and then I sleep with them and it's just not there. And it's not necessarily awful, but it's just not what I was expecting.
Well, so for you to consider a guy for a long-term relationship, does he have to be the best sex you've ever had?
Oh, no, not at all. But
Okay.
I don't want to have a virgin.
You wouldn't want to date a virgin. Okay.
No,
but isn't that okay?
been
Let's say he's not a virgin though.
Mm-hmm.
But the first, well, okay. Actually, question for the whole table here, because maybe I think we can all agree. Sometimes you don't always put forth your best performance all the time, and maybe that's the first time, right? If the first time was bad, would that just be just instantly not going to see them a second time?
No.
You'll give them a second chance.
Yeah.
A
lot of times they can be nervous and it just doesn't work out.
Oh, there you go. That's reasonable. Okay, that's reasonable.
I agree with Coke Dick.
Yeah, I agree. No.
Depends.
First time, not so great.
It could be really bad.
It could be really, really bad. I've had that happen
And
before.
would you still give another chance or
No.
into the mic? First time, really? What if they were nervous?
Yes. If they were nervous, but like I've had scenarios where it's the first time and they did horribly bad and it was just no.
Okay. Well, and then
Yeah, like give it a fair shot.
a couple times.
Yeah.
Or-
So I'm re-waiting for marriage. I'm not a virgin at the moment, but in the past, I would be very gracious for the first time.
In the past, okay, gracious. All right, Natalie, what about you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Interesting. Wait,
was that a yes to you wouldn't sleep with them again?
Has said, yeah.
Okay. Wait, so you were saying though that you want to test drive the car, and if the sex isn't, but isn't that something you can work on?
Yes and no. So, for example, I married my husband. I was incredibly in love with him. Thought he was the love of my life.
Oh wait, your husband was not good in bed?
Let me get to it.
Okay.
So, thought he was the love of my life. We had dated for off and on for 7 years before we got married.
Yeah.
And I was 1,010% confident, convinced that this was my person. I had found him. I loved him intrinsically, inside and out, faults and all. I ignored the red flags in the relationship, meaning
you ignored the red flags to the guy you married?
Because I was so in love with him and the idea of marrying him, because I loved him and I was willing to overlook things, specifically the sexual dynamic, the sexual chemistry that we had or didn't have.
What was lacking?
I'm sure everybody at this table can have an experience where you have had partners where you just naturally click with them. There's just a connection, there's an energy between you, and it just works. And then you can be with another partner where you may get along with them really well, but the sexual dynamic is not there. And there's no way of making it work. There's no amount of counseling, there's no amount of practicing that you could do to fix it. And that's where I fell short with my husband. I loved him, but I didn't have that intrinsic part that you need with a partner that makes it different from every other relationship that you have.
Wait, you guys were married for 5 years, was it?
No. So we dated from the time I was 23 to 30, off and on. It wasn't one period of time.
Oh, it was an off and on again relationship.
It was an off and on relationship.
And then you did get married, though.
We got married, and we were married for
You got
a year
married
and a
and then
half.
off.
The reason
Okay.
why I was so hell-bent on marrying him is because for the longest time he wasn't ready or didn't want to commit to me. So and that's the reason why we would always break up, is because I wanted to be in this committed relationship, but he was not willing to give me that. So I would break up with him, and then we would get back together and again
How
and
many
again.
times was it
Oh gosh,
off and on?
a lot. He moved a couple
10
times.
10 times, less?
Maybe 5.
5 times. Who
Yeah.
would reinitiate?
I think me, because I just
You?
I
Wait,
loved
you would
him
break
so
up
much.
and you would
Yes.
reinitiate?
Yes. I just loved him so much. I just couldn't let him go because I was
But-
convinced that he was my person, and I was just willing to make the sacrifice of maybe not getting everything that I wanted at the time.
But you eventually got married. Mm-hmm. Who initiated the divorce?
It was mutual.
It was mutual.
Mm-hmm. I think we were both unhappy for different reasons.
What was the? I don't know if you said it. What was the reason for the divorce? Was there infidelity? Or
No,
It was
no.
just what?
It
the
was
sex was
just-
bad. Was that the
I
reason
think
for the divorce?
I think I can only speak for myself because I can't speak for somebody else, but I think for me, the reason why I personally didn't want to be married to him for the rest of my life was because I could see myself cheating on him, and I didn't want to do that. And so I decided to make the decision to break up because I was,
Excuse me?
I was just
Damn, okay.
unhappy sexually. I felt like I couldn't ever connect with my partner. He had a lot of
Were you
emotional
guys
walls.
were you guys having sex, or was it a dead bedroom?
We were also trying very hard to conceive for most of the time that we were engaged and married. So we
Wait,
were
and
having a
he's-
lot of sex, but
Did
it
you have a kid
wasn't-
with him, or is this from
No,
a different man?
this is
Okay,
from-
you have
yeah.
one kid, different man. Wait, and you got married before or after you had a kid?
I got married at 30 and I had my child at
You-
35. So I
With
was
a different person.
Yes.
Okay. Wait, so did you tell him that the sex wasn't really
Oh yes.
doing it for
Oh
him?
yes. We had we talked about, okay, well, do we need to go to therapy, and maybe we need to practice the way we kiss with each other, and we would openly talk about the fact that we wanted to fix this as a couple, as a unit, as a
What was
partnership.
what was his explanation there? Would you climax?
I would make myself.
You okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't able to make you climax.
Not him alone, no.
Have other partners been able to do that?
I usually always have to help myself along.
Okay.
But
Well,
it was for my husband and I, it was just
Has
very
a guy's never been able to make you climax?
Yes, but it's more rare.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to get. Are we talking clitoral orgasm or?
I've only had
G-spot.
that, I would say, maybe I could probably count on one hand.
And is that like something that, because for some girls it can be a mental thing,
Mm-hmm.
like it's maybe there's not a level of comfort there, or
I was very comfortable with him. What the problem was is it was just very
technical-
mechanical.
for you?
No, it
did you
just-
did you watch porn?
No,
Did you use toys?
no.
So with your own hands, you'd be able to get yourself to climax.
I just didn't feel that he had a lot of emotional blocks that he wasn't comfortable talking about, and so I think
Well-
it inhibited me from feeling that super deep intimacy with him, and I need that in a partner.
in
and
order
that,
to climax.
Yeah. Well, in order
was
to
the sex bad because the guy couldn't make you climax, or were there other reasons why the sex was bad?
it was bad because it wasn't intimate and there wasn't love and there wasn't romance.
You mean he just like wanted to hit it from the back, basically? Like all the time?
Did you feel empowered when you were with him? That's the
No,
question.
not at all.
Okay,
It wasn't-
there you go.
Yeah.
The sex wasn't
Cut off.
intimate? What do you mean?
It just, there wasn't
Was he really into rough sex? Was that?
kind of, I
Okay.
mean,
And you wanted more gentle sex?
yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see. Oh, no, I get that.
And I think he
Okay.
was willing to give that to me and compromise, but what was missing at the end of the day was that pure intimacy that you can only get when you're really vulnerable with another human being, and he wasn't able to give me his full vulnerability. So I always felt like he was holding back.
I mean, I'm not. That sounds a little bit like. I'm not sure why that's a component of the sex being bad, but
For me, it is. I have to have really emotionally connected sex for. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to be, railed every once in a while, but most of the time, I like to have a close, loving, bonded connection with my partner, and I just never felt that with him.
but you said you loved him, right?
I did.
So the sex was bad from a technical perspective, or there
No.
was a missing connection,
Yeah,
comfort,
it was
intimacy.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I think she said both emotional connection.
he
and
was
then
always
also just
holding
like
back,
different-
and I felt that. I felt like he
Holding
wasn't
back
I felt-
sexually?
no, emotionally. I felt like he
That's
was
what
always,
men do. That's the name of the game. We don't.
Yeah, but not with your wife.
How was he holding back?
He wasn't allowing himself to be fully present with me. I think he was scared.
What do you mean fully present? I mean, it's obviously, I imagine this is something that's hard to precisely articulate, but without actually seeing the dynamic or knowing the dynamic, but you wanted him to be vulnerable?
It wasn't just sexually. He held a lot of secrets from me in general, and I felt it the most in the bedroom.
Yeah, you
think
have
that's
to
fair.
pay attention to how you feel when you get.
I don't know, man. From a guy,
I don't know, man. That sounds like a lot of work.
it sounds like kind of a lot of work.
I disagree. I
yeah,
mean,
it's-
you don't even want to get married to someone, but like, there's a level of intimacy, and I can
But she
speak
said
on
the
that.
sex was bad.
Yeah, but I can speak on that as a
And you
sex
just
worker.
but you said that you want to test drive, so like for you it wasn't this thing of like when you're dating somebody new, how long do you typically wait before having sex with them?
A couple, like at least a week or two, sometimes longer. But it's usually a few dates in.
Okay.
It's usually never the first date.
So the sex is always going to be bad?
No,
Well, I'm just confused because like
it was just bad with him because I just didn't ever feel close to him. I thought it felt just very mechanical. Like the sex that you get when you meet somebody for the first time and you're just banging, that's what it felt like for me. It didn't feel like the love and the intimacy that you're supposed to feel with your lifelong partner.
okay.
I know what you're saying. I completely actually like understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I do too. That's why I was trying to like give a little. Yeah.
You can have amazing,
advice.
great sex on paper.
Or
Like,
camera.
for example, one of my last boyfriends was a perfect 10 on paper. He hit all of the boxes. We had theoretically great sex, but we didn't have that connection. And so our relationship only lasted for a couple months because he felt it and I felt it. And it was just like a mutual, this was great while it lasted. Thank you very much. But I'm going to be on my way.
I don't know, man. That sounds like a lot of work.
So what it sounds like to me, Brian, is you
That
have had a
sounds
lot of
like-
mechanical sex, but you haven't had a lot of really intimate, wonderful, beautiful sex because you don't even
had-
know what I'm talking about.
No, it just seems like you want this sort of vague, nebulous, ethereal thing, which
The people
Like
who know,
the
know.
Disney-
The people who know what I'm talking about. That's all I have to say.
Well, I mean, I'll actually throw this out there. I actually don't like the rough sex that you speak of. I actually prefer more intimate, gentle sex.
There you
I'm
go.
not clear if that's what you're really. Why are you looking at me that way? Look, I get that you want to just like have super crazy rough sex. Relax. Not everybody's into that, okay? Chill out, bro.
I'm just trying to see what you're gonna say.
No. I actually prefer, I don't want to like do the fucking jackhammer.
Yeah.
Okay, but
That's
have
not
you had a
interesting
like
to me.
real connection? Like, have you felt that super deep connection with someone?
Like, have you looked into a woman's eyes and just like held her hand and have it be this beautiful moment between you two, like two souls bonding together? If you've
That's-
never,
It doesn't have to be
Bro,
that.
you want
intense.
some Disney
It doesn't
shit.
have to be that.
Yes.
intense.
On
But
some
you know a
Disney
difference
shit.
between like when you have
That
a
sounds
connection
kind
and you
of,
don't
I
have a
can't
connection.
say the word. I'm not going to say the word, but that sounds kind of,
no, that's
You
just
know what I
I
mean?
think
No,
what
you just
real
have a-
true intimacy is,
I
and
think
I don't
your
think
expectations be kind of crazy when it comes
No,
to sex.
Okay, my question though, have you had experiences where you feel more connected than another? If you're having the same type of sex, have you felt more connected to one person over the other emotionally during the sex?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so that's exactly what she's saying.
But
It, to her
And it's
extent
not-
is not exactly your extent, but it does make sense, right? Of that different level of connection.
and it's not a lot of work when you have a natural intrinsic connection. It works,
But
and
that's
you don't have
why
to think about
it
it.
makes sense to test it out before you get married. In certain people's scenario, if you're not for religious reasons, that's totally cool and that's your own thing. But like, for some people, that's not what they believe in. So.
I'm a little lost, to be honest. I'm not even sure where to tackle that from. Maybe your expectations are a little too high.
And that's possible. I was blessed enough to be intimate with somebody who blew my mind in every way possible. And it wasn't the sex, it was the intimacy, it was the love, it was the connection. And so I have a pretty high benchmark from which to base my future connections. And
You're screwed. You're screwed.
I would tell
That's
him all the
fucked.
time. And if you're watching, he knows. I would tell him all the time, "You ruined me. You literally ruined
Alpha
me
widow. This
because
is
now
what
I
Red
have
Pill
this super
is all
high
about.
expectation." So I'm very aware
this
of
is,
it.
There's this, I don't like the term alpha, but it's actually a good descriptive thing here. So you've been with a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Was he, I mean, the sex itself was great, but was he also like really attractive and like hit a bunch of check marks too?
I don't think. Yes and no. I don't think. Well,
Yo,
I
this
personally-
shit is dangerous. Once a girl gets fucked a certain way, bro, you guys are fucked. I'm
yeah,
sorry,
I'm
dude.
sorry.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree with
sorry.
that.
I'm sorry, but I would say.
It's over.
I would say
It's
he was
over.
a traditionally
Done with.
attractive guy. I don't know.
This
if
is
he
why
was
body.
a 10
This,
out of
this
10.
kind of segues into our next conversation that you wanted to talk about is body count.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: once you've fucked enough guys, you've landed on a certain dude that just like it might not even be sex, but it could be like he's just so fucking attractive, or
Mm-hmm.
his status, or just like something, his charisma, or the way you feel about him, that is not going to be easily replicated in other men, and you're going to use that guy as the benchmark for all the other guys going into the future.
Absolutely, I have a really great analogy for
But this
that.
actually
It's-
almost let me just add
Men
one
do
thing.
that too, though.
Not really.
Yeah, they do.
Not really. It's a bit different. This actually stems back to the rating thing. So here's where women get into big trouble. Because you have sexual access to men that you can't get commitment from, if you fuck those really attractive dudes that will never give you commitment, and then like the guys who will actually commit to you are like 1, 2, 3 points down, either their sex game, status, money, whatever it is, you're gonna be comparing the guy who you can actually get commitment from to the guy who you can't get commitment from, and that makes for a terrible fucking relationship, because you think you've settled
What does that
when
have to
really
do
you were
with
just
connection,
shooting out of
though?
your league, huh?
Talking about physical is not the same as what she was talking about, though.
Exactly.
She was talking about connection that whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Does that-
Do you not know what connection is?
Okay, so
I
let
know
me
what
give
connection
you
I'm just
my
saying,
analogy.
like, that's not the same thing of
Excuse
like.
me.
At the end of the day, in terms of sex, what we were talking about is looking for that specific connection. So like,
What does that even mean?
I'm
The
confused.
connection.
You only,
If you've
gonna
never
explain to
experienced
you.
it, it's hard to
Yeah.
quantify
The
it.
vibe. You guys are
Wait.
talking about the click, the chemistry, the
Wait.
vibe.
Yeah, is there such thing
have
as
you
sexual
never
chemistry? Do you-
experienced that connection
Well,
with somebody?
there's sexual chemistry and then there's romantic chemistry. I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can feel the click or vibe for somebody before you've had sex with them, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
100.
But sexual chemistry is what she's talking about.
Okay.
There is
But
zero.
it sounds like you're holding these men to this this one guy just fucked
And I'm
you
not
really
denying
proper.
that. He
and
literally
no,
ruined
but she
me,
actually
yeah.
admitted it. She said from her own mouth, she said, he ruined me for other men.
But like,
And that's precisely why segueing here, why I think body count matters. Because eventually it's like Russian roulette. Well, not Russian roulette. You keep rolling the dice, and eventually you're going to land on a dude who fucks you just right or who's just attractive enough. And then all the guys, let's assume that relationship doesn't work out. That's the benchmark for all the other guys moving forward. And it sets those men up for you're going to disappoint your girl.
But there's always
Just saying.
the
Just
potential
saying.
to form a new bond or a new connection with that partner. So it's
Bro,
not it's not completely.
That's so okay. You said that like
So let
while you're fucking these like new men, do you think about the guy who put it down just right? That's such oh my god, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah, I can analyze
That's so
that.
crazy,
I
dude.
don't think that way.
She's having sex with other
I can
men.
analyze
She's having
that.
sex with other
So-
men, and she's thinking about the guy who did it just right.
So I can answer
Oh
that.
my God, that's
I can answer that question. So the reason why
That's crazy.
the reason why I knew I needed to get a divorce was because I have a crystal clear memory of me having sex with my husband and thinking about this other guy and me knowing in that moment I have to divorce him because if I don't get
I've
out of
done
this
that
marriage,
before.
I'm going to cheat on him. I'm going to try to find this.
That's
and I know
happened
that's
to
really
me.
fucked up, but I didn't want to be
No,
a
it's
cheater.
not. It's not. That's happened to me too.
So while you were, hold on, let me recap here. While you were having sex with your husband, you were thinking about another man who you were who you had better sex with. And because the sex with your husband wasn't as good as the sex with this other man, you wanted to get a divorce.
It wasn't the sex, it was the connection. But yes.
It was the realization
100%.
too.
The guy who was really good in bed, how long did you date him for?
6 months
And how soon did you have that connection after meeting him?
immediately. It was immediate.
You wait, hold on. I thought a connection is something that takes a while to develop.
No, it's that intrinsic connection that you either have or you don't with a person. It's either there
Well,
or
there's
it's
a
not.
difference.
So just
that you
base
can
primal-
build. You can build on that connection to
Are you-
have form deeper connections.
Wow,
but
this is a red pill if I've ever fucking
No,
heard
but
one.
there's different types of connections. There can be a sexual connection.
Well,
there
this
can
was a
be
base primal
mental
connection. You had the click.
You've never had that before?
Why did it not work out with this guy?
because he was a lot younger than me, and I didn't want younger meaning he was in a completely different stage in his life from me, and I didn't want to hold him down by being in a relationship with me. I kind of made the sacrifice to let him be young and
Yeah,
do and
that
experience
happens,
his
yeah.
youth and not be tied down by me.
Was he what archetype was he? Was he a bad boy
archetype.
archetype?
He was cocky, but
archetype.
Yeah,
but sweet.
cocky but sweet. Tattoos?
No,
No tattoos. Okay.
pretty much the antithesis of what my type is, I should say.
He was the opposite of what your type is. What's your type?
Tall, dad bod, not cocky,
So
down
he was
to earth.
short.
He was not short. I think he was right about my
Was he
height.
ripped?
Skinny, no, skinny.
Okay.
Bad skin.
Bad skin.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I saw beyond the physical. I just fell in love with who he was.
Were there any like did he have any personality disorders?
No, he was the most normal. he was so mature. Like, I met him when I was 28 and he was 22, and at 22 he was already a pilot, he was already working in aviation, he was already on his way towards his aviation career, and he was just very goal driven.
Hilly donated $100. It's beyond fucked up. Brian's right, good men get fucked over cause of your fairy tale delusion. Disgusting. After you segue into body count, can we ask why they deserve this man that they dream of?
I didn't say I completely am. I don't live in Delululand. I am very aware that it's fucked up. Thus, why I wanted to get a divorce, because I didn't want to be that awful person that cheated on her husband.
At least she's aware of her like actions. A lot of people can't be aware of that, and they don't validate it.
Nickelodeon donated $100. And they say pair bonding isn't real. Girl, you're ruined.
I am.
Take the guy that's willing to love you and be happy you got it.
Soul ties
Though,
are real.
after this show, that will probably be harder. Go back to our hubby.
Well, he's married to somebody else.
Soul
Thank
ties
you.
are real. Soul ties are real.
This is crazy. I mean, this is a huge difference. Nickelodeon, I appreciate your message.